let's welcome our very first speaker for now, Peter Jakobsen, the founder and CEO of PR Nordic, and connecting to him right now. I believe, yep, Peter, hello. Can you hear me? Yeah, I believe we're connecting right now at the moment, trying to fix.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Oh, yep, I can hear you now. Fantastic. How are you?
I am very good, and thank you a lot, for letting me share some good experiences with all of you today.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it so much. Where are you based at the moment?
Currently, right now, I'm sitting in a wonderful Copenhagen, but normally, my playground is completely globally, so it can be another place, another day. It's
Oh, wow.
my industry goes pretty fast, so I'd rather say that we are all with an international mindset, so it's quite
Yeah, I
globally.
guess so. What is your favorite city? Do you have one?
Oh,
That's a tricky question, huh?
yeah, it's when you have been in one place, you like something from that place, and then you like something from another place, and then you like. There's always something you as a pluses, Some places are amazing for food, some places are amazing for just to go and discover. So there's so many. I must say, right now, I do find Casablanca interesting in Morocco.
Casablanca,
But
wow.
there is a lot of cities around.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us in London today. Super excited to listen to your presentation.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you. And you can all see my screen as well?
Oh, yeah. By the way, yeah, it's just awesome.
That's
your screen, your background is just wow.
Yeah, a little story is actually from a press trip one time where I was lucky to find some posters in Vancouver, and it took me 4 years to change those posters to digitalize them and get them sprayed out on canvas so they could look like paintings from the universe. So it was a quite long trip actually. So a tribute to the guy who made them. But actually, I'm so happy and that I am able to talk about two things that really has my interest. One is gaming. I've been playing games since it was possible to play, and it started with all this ping pong system. And then also the other thing, which is actually branding, and I will come into that. But it's two of the things that really interest me, and combining that and talk about that, that's quite amazing. And of course, we have a certain time today, so I'll try to limit everything about and around what I know into this time frame.
I know it may be hard with all the experience you have, but oh well, I'm sure we'll make sure that it's as interesting, as insightful as possible.
Yeah. So actually today, it's about how to deliver a clear message and the way to reach your audience. That's actually the main things. And also, I hope that after that, if audience are interested, then I'm mostly happy to answer as many questions as possible within the time frame. And actually, you can say the headline is how to think PR. But some of the things I would like to touch today is how to select your strategy, because there's a lot of strategies, and it's about finding the one that is right for you. It's also spot the opportunities, and that's actually one of the parts I like personally, because you think that it's quite difficult to find an interesting angle, but there are so many angles today. It sometimes doesn't even have to be actually your game. It can also be you as a person who actually make the game. Find your angles, for your PR campaign, how to take it into action, and then also that's a little plus, but how I see it with my experience, how this about doing PR or branding things, branding especially games, have changed from when I started many years back until today. So a little bit about me here. I have been working 21 years with PR and been working for a lot of different publishers, a lot of game companies that doesn't exist anymore, as Acclaim and Virgin Interplay. There have been something called Logic and many companies that was at that time the biggest in the world and are not there anymore. The time changed, and companies take over some good IPs and then become really big. I've been working with sales and marketing, and then I went to PR. And I've been lucky also to work with a lot of developer personalities like Charles Cecil and John Hare and Warren Spector and many people who actually made the games I was playing when I was a child. So it's a highly honor, to have been working in one another way with those people. Also, actually been working with a lot of AAA titles and been glad to support there with what I could do for games like Grand Theft Auto, Vice City, San Andreas, Max Payne. There's a lot. That's some of the bigger releases, but also indie games that I really find interesting is from one man armies to the bigger indie releases like Inside and Limbo and so on. Leo's Fortune. There's a lot. I think over the time that it have been to 1,200 games. I've also been lucky to work with esport and been supporting for different companies that produce certain hardware for esport teams, and also actually TV series. So I've been supporting on things like Game of Thrones and Modern Family and Simpsons also, and a film like The Joker, and there's a lot there. Events, I've been working with many events like the European finalists for League of Legends, for Riot Games, and for big shows as well. For sport, I've been happy also to support Liverpool Football Club in supporting with branding there. So it had all is something around entertainment in one another way, but my main focus is games, and that's what I really burn for. I found this one actually in an article one time, and it was Bill Gates that was saying that if he was down to $1 left, he would spend it on public relation. And a lot of people today, they think that public relation is something that is dead, and now it's content creators and it's different, or there's other ways to do or to brand your things. But the fact is that actually PR or public relation is actually the umbrella word for all those activities. So if you even do brand building, or you do social media pushes, or you work with content creators, or you work with traditional medias in that way, all of that is actually a kind of PR, and it's under that umbrella. So definition, just to take a step back, what are PR? What is PR actually today? It's when you have like a communication from a certain company or a certain organization towards your end user, your consumer, that stream of information, as soon as you start to handle it and control it and do it in a certain way, that's actually what public relations are. So whatever you use one thing or another thing, it actually doesn't matter as long as you actually reach your goal. I think this little clip here will show a little bit about actually what I will talk about later. So it's actually for many people today that start up or has a title or a game that is really interesting to push and support. Of course, it can also be a lot of money and actually time to invest into brand your game. And I can believe that a lot are in doubt, which way should we select? And by seeing this Frogger game, you can select a lot of things. You can step on a lot of paddles there to actually get safe in lane. So I don't think there's something that is really wrong. You just have to select a way and actually believe that this is a strategy you want to do. Secondly, you can always evaluate after and take the key learnings from that into the next campaign. That's like when you do a game, when I ask developer people, which game is the best you have been doing, many says the next one. And this is a little bit, so take the key learnings and take them to the next project. So there's nothing actually really right and wrong, but there are some different key learnings. Some of the things I would like here to if I should boil it down quite simply, is 3 steps. That's actually where are you now? is where do you want to go and how do you get there. If you take the notes, those 3 things, then you actually start to have a fundament for a good PR plan. It doesn't have to be so advanced, but this is the 3 things. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? And how do you want to get there? So, to take the first one, step 1, where are you now? It can be, a lot of things about, when I ask people, what do you want? And a developer team can come and say to me, we want a number 1 on App Store or something like that. And that's possible, if you work hard as a PR person. But of course, also the quality of the game needs to be there as well. But it can also be something different. It can also be that your PR is not just to get your game sold or get your game visible, but it can also be something that can reach, towards your team. Because if you go out and actually bring to your studio or the group of people you are that makes a game, that can actually be really interesting towards other people who are also looking for, potentially a team to join or a nice place to work. So PR can also be, for you to get really nice team members to your team, so your game or your project will be stronger. It can third also be actually to secure investment, because if you come out with a nice story, some investors might say, this is a team we really, really want to support. And what I've seen is that if you have a right team and you actually also have some investment, then most likely one day, you can get a number 1 hit. So this is all about, where are you now? And that's what you have to think about. What is it really you want to do? Also, don't start the PR, really evaluate what is it you want to do, and then wait and make a plan, get it into a timeline. But we will touch some of that stuff later. So that's the first thing. So it doesn't have to be a visibility about your game. It can also be other things. And remember that the first game you're doing or a game you're doing, if it really comes out and it gets, not positive critics, it can be, difficult to have that game, on your shoulders. But if you, if you move on and want to have certain investments, or if you want to have, a nice profile on the internet, but if you have a lot of stories about the team, how you work, how you're meeting together and all that, then you always have that as a good fundament. And then, if you have some clippings from or coverage from a review that was not good, that might have been shadowed by, the good articles about the team. Secondly, step 2, where do you want to go? And that's about, you have to think about, what is it actually? What kind of message do you want to come out with? I normally ask people, what makes you smile? Imagine that you go to a party and people ask you, so what are you doing? And you say, I work with this game. This is the last one we just released. And you see that person smile and actually start talking about, wow, that was the game. And they say something that makes you smile. Or imagine you're sitting in a bus or in a train and you hear some people talking about your game and you're just listening to what they say. What should they say to make you smile? What would really, what is it you want to hear that would make you fly out of the train, and be overwhelmed happy? I think what they would like to say, it could be the most fun game, the most daring game. It could be, bringing them back down the memory lane of something that reminds them of something from old days. It could be a really, fast-paced action game, or something that really made them, challenging in one another way. That's the key message, and that's actually the key message of your campaign. So always remember, when you go towards media and content creators, if you in one another way can put that key message in, or work in a way so when you deliver what you say, remember to have that in. So you highlight the things you want to hear, because there are potential chance that the content creators or medias will underline that when they come out with a message. So again, think about what is it actually the PR campaign you want to have? Is it about getting your game visible? Is it about attract team members? Is it about attract investors, or all of it? Secondly, also find out your key message. And your key message about all this, as I say, what's making you smile. And that's really something that is for me, I think the bottom line of the message you should come out with. Third step is, how do you want to get there? because there's many ways, and this is actually how you want to go, how you want to get that Frogger from the bottom of the screen in the top safe. How do you want to get there? And there can be many things. It can be it can be all about spotting opportunities and actually storytelling. And this is where PR is a little bit different from, for example, advertisement, where advertisement is something where you maintain a brand knowledge. Then PR is more building a story, building a brand, which is very actually interesting when we talk about startup companies. You see, big brands as Coca-Cola today, they use a lot of advertisement. It's because the brand are known, they just keep it visible. Where you have a new brand today, if you used a lot of money on advertise in different social medias, a lot of people will say, we don't know the game, we don't know the sender, equal the developer team, we do not know anything about it. What is it? But if there have been some PR out and been doing some story building, storytelling, then people can rely to it and actually get a kind of feeling. And people like to build a relation, even if it's a car brand, if it's a rock band, if it's a certain place to go to a festival or concert or something like that, a restaurant, a discotheque. People like that, to have a relation to something, and that can be built up, even that your game might not be the best, but you can build up some really good visibility around the team. So it's about as I was saying, advertisement is reaching everybody, PR is reaching somebody, and this is where you can go out and actually target quite good. So I have this burger here, and it's about, should I brand a burger? Then there might be media that say we don't, Peter, cover an entire burger, but then I would perhaps do a story about how the farmer, he made it, his and his cows are making the cheese, so it gets or the milk, so they can produce the cheese. It could be potentially about the tomatoes, how they are well produced in Italy, or the bread that it comes from a certain farmer that produce it in France. Or so you can do an entire story about that with a twist of the burger. So if it's a racing game you do, you can get in even to media or content creators that talks about cars, talks about racing with a twist of your game. So it can always be something about that. Consider, if you work and you should hype a James Bond movie, it's not only for people who like to see the movie, but it could also be about the actress that have slimmed a lot to be this new actress in the movie. But it could also be that she was pregnant last year and she has slimmed a lot and she's super fit today. So you can do a lot of coverage about how you were slimming, or potentially the food you are eating on the set, so you keep strong and healthy to do all the activities you have to do in order to play that movie. So there's always a lot of things around how to spot an opportunity. For a typical studio that starts up today, I see many people who make video games today as actually stars. And if you ask children today, or teenagers, who is a star, many would probably say it would be Messi, from FC Barcelona or something like that. And that stars you not normally meet. But if you ask a boy and you say, what would be a person who make a video game, I guess that a lot of young people will say, wow, that's a star as well, But they do not know that star is also sitting in the box next to them and is living in the same city. So it's you can actually build a story about that person, and a lot of local regional medias and will actually like to cover that, because many regional medias have a higher trustworthy rate than national medias. So you can start up, even that if you take a team is 5 people and they come from 5 different places, you can actually build a story about each of the person from 5 different places. And the local, even if it's a small city, they like and love that there is actually a talent in their city, in that local area, that are actually building something that is this video game, or something that is this entertainment-ish thing. So there's many things. It can be how you met, how you met your investor. It can also be how you got this idea for this game. It can be something that have been an issue. for you that you have solved via that. It can be, that you have had, some problems in a childhood you put out in a game. It can be many things. And if you imagine you can come out with that statement, imagine how many people who will find that interesting and would actually like to go out and try your game simply because they like your story. So that's a big thing. It doesn't naturally always have to be the game alone. And I must say, with the high volume of games that release every day, you really have to something that sticks out in order that just only have the game to speak for itself. You really have to have a good story behind, or a good team. And the better story you have about the team, most likely I find that other team members will come, investors will come as well. One thing I find very interesting as well is this: be selective. It's you can shoot to left and right and come up with your message to everybody. And I'll actually find out that instead of targeting everybody, I select some. And then I go to them, and those medias or content creators know that if I contact them, I contact them simply because I know this is something they have touched before, something they like. You can actually sometimes go in and find out what does the audience say. Lately, I had a great pleasure to work with the Deep Rock GALACTIC from Ghost Ship Games, and as I think it went like as a #1 on Steam. But for this campaign, and I was like a support on the PR campaign, and what I did here in this case was not to go out and target everybody, but it was simply to go out and actually find out what kind of medias have covered the game before, what kind of medias have covered competitor games before. Imagine that a content creators had covered a competitor game before, and the content creators audience was saying, "Wow, this was really good." Then you have a good option to contact them again and say, "You know what? There is something that is down your alley here. We have something new, and it might be interesting for you." And if they know that the audience have been asking for that, most likely they will take it because, of course, they want to keep their fame. But actually, who also covered the game before? It can also be games that are similar, in the same genre. And of course, you also have the newsworthy thing here. You have to know that everything that is newsworthy is very important when you come out with it, because today's newspaper is newsworthy. Tomorrow you wrap fish in it. So it's not. So it's about coming out with it when it's quite newsworthy. But here I selected medias that showed an interest. So I did a little bit of investigation, and that's also what you can do. So don't think about you should with your game go out and reach everybody. Find somebody where they have covered something that is similar. You can look in the forums, what are people saying? What is your audience saying? Do they want more? Then you can use that as an excuse and say, you know what, I can see that your audience really like what you do. I have something more of that's the same genre. So that's also a positive angle, for people to take it. And you don't have to, have a tons of pickups, when you go out and do something. It's getting one piece, and one piece, taking them step by step. I also had a high honor to work with a company called The Bearded Ladies that did a game called Landed Bandit many years back. And they came out with a game around 2000 and what was it? I think it was around 2010 or something like that. But it was around when there was a big recession in the world. And this team came out actually with a game that was really good, but nobody knew about the game. And I actually found out that what was a strong thing besides the great game was actually that the team had an amazing story. It was there's some really skilled people that joined forces and didn't come from the video game industry, made it their first game, and actually by that followed their dreams. So you could say that at that time in Sweden, for example, there was a recession. A lot of people was fired, didn't know what to do. And here you have a class example of people who did something different before. They changed, settled in a new direction, go out and do a game and really do it good, and actually made it possible for me, to as a support on PR to go in and actually do stories about them as a team, that they dared, to follow their own dreams and follow their own ways. And for me to see, I think they were like a good front figure and a good symbol, for a lot of people in Sweden that you can settle and do something different. So I think in that way, a lot of people could, rely to them as people who dare to do something new and different. So it was not so much about the game. It was more about the team with a twist of the game. So that can be possible as well. Also, listen to the audience. As mentioned, I've been lucky to work with some of the Grand Theft Auto games, and then suddenly I changed after some time to THQ, that was launching a Saints Row game that was quite similar to what you're seeing in Grand Theft Auto, and instead of actually going out and just roll out an entire campaign, then we actually listened to what did the audience at that time say, and it was quite interesting because we didn't listen so much about what the media is. There were not content curators at that time, but we didn't listen so much to what the media were saying, but actually what did the forums say. So when we launched screenshots, because I must be honest, when we launched the game or announced it, I went to all forums and did like a statistic and see, how many people like it and how many people are against that this game is coming. And there were actually, in the region I covered, there were nobody who are like positive about the game release and the announcement. There were 1% neutral and 99% against that the game should release or launch or come out. So we launched a lot of screenshots, and every time the people in the forums were saying there's not a lot of action here, or the screenshots are too dark, or they're too this and this, we knew next round of screenshots the developer team Volition went in and actually changed it. So they made a screenshot after what the audience was saying that could be cool to get. So every time some people were complaining about something, of course they shouldn't make the game, but we tried every time to see if we could in one another way get out or distribute out the kind of screenshots and kind of assets that what people really want to see. And in that way, we started to eliminate all the negativity. And actually, just before the release of the game, I checked again all forums, and I had in that area 100% positivity. There were not as much as anybody who was like neutral or negative. So we actually tried to deliver everything what the audience would like to have, and we listened to the audience. So that's also something that can be quite interesting. Not only listening to the influencer, but listen to what the comments they have, listen to the forums, listen to see what people are saying, and in one another way, try to deliver it. Of course, again, with in mind, the audience are not making the game, that's you, but it can be a good thing to actually listen to those who play the games. One of the other things, I would like to talk about is also, how all this have changed over the years. And I've been doing the PR for 21 years now, and one of the things I think that is really a difference and actually a plus today is that in old days when you came out with a game, you had a disc or a code. You could hand it to a media that could play the game if they had a certain debug PlayStation machine or Xbox machine, for example, and then they could play the game. Also, when you evaluate a game, when you did a review, that was that review, and it was done. So if the game was not even made it finish, I've seen games that was not completely finished that actually had to be launched via different companies today because they had a certain financial year to launch this game under or a quarter. So they launched it even that they were not finished. They had to launch it simply. And today you have this plus that when you get a game, you just push out an update, and then the game is more or less corrected if there was some mistakes during the launch. Also that for example, I also had the pleasure to work with the Warframe from Digital Extremes for a range of years, and something that I think this is a class example on is that you can make a game, and if your audience are asking for something, you can also again change it so you can make it actually. So if they want a world where you can fly around with wings, you can actually make that in an update. So you can listen to the audience and you can build that. But also for the medias and content creators, if they play the game one time and they don't like it, imagine that in old days, that was it, you didn't change the game. You could go out and buy a new one, a sequel or something like that. But today, you can come up with an update and you can change that. So what potentially a media wrote 1 month ago or half year ago might have changed today. It might have been eliminated. So those things that a media journalist or content creator was saying, half a year ago wasn't good about the game, might have changed today. So for me, on my point of view, that actually makes it a natural step for me to go to those people and say, you know what, we changed it. Would you like to evaluate it? Or we have a new update. Will you like to evaluate that? So instead of having one review in old days, now you can actually have more and more and more and more. And so that's actually how I see that things have changed. And take it, back to the steps, again, if you should put 3 notes in here, is A, where are you now? B, where do you want to go? C, how do you want to get there? That's the 3 things I think is really the target point of actually building a fundament for a PR plan. Then you can build everything in the timelines and what suits you after. But this is the 3 steps. My advice with my experience, I think, would be great, to build something around. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for your presentation. It was very insightful. We have some short time to actually ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yes.
One of them is, when would you think is the best time for a development company, to start thinking about PR? And is it something for everyone, or it works for some specific genres maybe better than for the rest? What do you think?
If I can start with the last one, I think for everything you can do PR, you can do branding. You can even brand yourself, in different things. So it's all about how you want to brand yourself, even if you go to a job interview or you're in a discotheque or so you can brand everything today, because it's how you position yourself. So even what kind of game it is, if it's very art-ish and very, unique in one way, you need to find out to get that message out to the people, who like that thing, and find out how do I get to them, what kind of medias, what kind of content creators do I need to reach them. So you have to step back, so even that you have something that is very niche, you have to find out who is the audience, what kind of medias do I have to go to, or what kind of content creators, or what kind of social medias do I have to approach to get my message out. And the message was the key message, what makes you smile. So you always have to step back and find out who do you want to approach, and what kind of medias or what kind of actions do you do. And that's a little bit like the frog. Do you want to step there and stand there to get it? Going back, when you start, I was saying, when I work with AAA titles, I've been working with titles that have been, for a very long time, and I've seen titles that have been as big titles that have been out for that was promoted for a short time. I would say, if you have really big AAA titles, around 9 months is always good to start a hype. But what is really important is that you have something new to show. Very often, when you look at a screenshot to begin with, when you announce something, and when you look at a screenshot from the same game when it comes out, very often they look different. And sometimes the first one you use as an announcement look better because it's too polished. But remember to have something you can build on. I would also say, if you talk about as an indie thing, every time you come out with a news, you take the air out of the balloon. So if you really want to come out with something and make it, really exciting, if you have been, releasing a little bit there and a little bit there and a little bit there, then it's difficult to make a bang, because if all the air is out of the balloon, it's difficult to make noise. So you have to think about, what do you want to reveal? Because if you reveal too much, it can be, up to an announcement, and you say, now we announce the game, and then you can see what kind of interest is there, and then find out that time we come out with some work in progress art, we put some interviews up, and then you make this timeline so everything goes up to where people ask for keys, for example, for Steam, and then you launch it. If it's a mobile game, it can be quite interesting because there's a difference if the game is a premium game or free to play. If it's a free to play game, you have to do all the PR before it comes out, because a lot of people say, why should we consider using time on this game because it's free to play? Everybody can, at the same time as reading or seeing my video, they can download it. So if it's free to play, do everything PR wise before it comes out. If it's a premium, you can still, run PR after the launch.
Right. Thank you very much, Peter, for your answers. Thank you for joining us today. It was good to have you in the studio. Hopefully, soon enough, we'll see you offline at one of the beautiful cities around the world, perhaps
Thank you a lot.
London. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you a lot for your time and interest. Cheers.
Bye-bye.